It's the Daily Doug.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Daily Doug. I'm speaking with Mike Massey here. This is going to be quite a fun thing. Mike actually reached out to me, so I don't know if I'm the one being interviewed or if he's the one being interviewed. We're just going to have fun with it today. Hi Mike, it's good
Hi,
to meet you.
you as
Excellent.
well.
Excellent. So where are you these days?
I live in Littleton, Colorado, which is a
Littleton,
suburb of
Colorado.
Denver. Yeah.
Okay. It's been a
Yeah, I went
long
to high
time
school.
since I've
Yeah, I
been
went
to.
to high school in Boulder. Oh, you've
Okay.
been here? You've been here? Yeah.
My sister-in-law did her master's work at Boulder, so it's been a
Oh, right
long
on.
time, but it's really pretty out there. I remember Estes
Yeah,
Park
yeah.
and all the good
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We have gathered to kind of learn more about each other, right?
Yeah,
You had an
absolutely.
interest in what I've been doing. I definitely have an
Mm-hmm.
interest in what you've been doing. I have some questions
Mm-hmm.
for you, and I know you have some questions for me. I will start. Let's put it.
Go ahead.
Let's go that way.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about your musical training. I know that you ended up with a law degree, yet
Yeah.
you are working as a full-time musician.
Mm-hmm.
You had to have been in a choir or in bands along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go to music school or did you just pick this
Mm-hmm.
up and play? Talk about your musical training.
Yeah. Yeah, so I started off at CU in Boulder as a music major,
Okay.
and those are some of the first voice lessons I ever took.
Hmm.
As a little kid, I took some piano lessons, and my mom, I had three older sisters and a younger brother, and they were all like my three sisters had taken piano. We had a piano in the house, an upright, and my mom noticed that I was the one who would tinker with it, like just for fun, and nobody else really
Hmm.
would. And I was picking out Yes and Journey songs and Styx songs by ear, just kind of, playing around. And she's like, maybe we should give him the lessons. And so I started taking lessons and did like little talent shows in elementary school, playing piano and such. And then eventually kind of gravitated towards guitar in high school, where I got an acoustic guitar. I got an ovation, celebrity applause, as was like most people's first guitar,
Hmm.
especially the acoustic, and was playing that for a while, and started. I kind of taught myself. I had a little bit of lessons, but I didn't really use the lessons for like theory
Oh,
and
sure.
to I was just like, teach me this song, and then the
Yep.
next lesson, teach me this song.
Yep.
And like it was so old school that it was literally like this the time that our lesson was spent with my instructor listening to a piece of the music and then writing it down in tab, hitting stop and then listening to the next part, writing it down in tab. So like, here's the intro to the song you wanted to learn. Like that's how long it took for a half an hour lesson. Like, okay, cool.
That
So
Yeah, that rings familiar to me because I was doing the same sort of stuff in high school. I was
hmm
trying to pick out on the piano. I'm like, oh, if I play this progression, I can move it here, and this is how. So I was like really into formulas and patterns and how they just lay
Yeah,
themselves out on the piano.
yeah.
That's how I gravitated toward it.
That's cool. And that
Yeah.
and that kind of that idea of formulas and such kind of translates to using a capo on guitar, where
Mm.
everything is just becomes relative to each other and you're just shifting it and so it doesn't really matter where one is. You just put the capo wherever and you're just using different chord positions, but you're really thinking one, four, five, two,
Sure.
like that's
Sure.
basically what it translates to, because you
Yeah.
don't even know what key you're in anymore. You're just
A
like, this is,
transposing instrument. There you go. How
yeah,
about
yeah,
that?
basically. Exactly. And so then I got into my first band in ninth grade with some local guys in Boulder, and who are still two dear friends of mine, Scott Slusher and Ken Benson, and they appear on
Mm.
my YouTube channel
Oh.
frequently. And yeah, and then I got into a choir in high school, and that was the first time I was just like, okay, choir, okay. And then I was like, I think I could be a voice major, but I didn't really have any like real training. I just had, a decent tone, but no no real control, no support,
Sure.
and then I went and did voice lessons in college, and I took two tracks simultaneously. I was taking classical like opera lessons from what we call legit, from the voice faculty, and
Right.
then I was taking belt lessons on the side from a music dance theater major who was studying belt as a singing style in
Right.
college. And this is when I transferred to BYU in Provo, Utah. And they had a great music program, and it was just like, whoa! I was in heaven, and
Mm.
it's even just gotten better. Like they've invested so much money. I was just like, oh my gosh! Like to go to that school today, I'm like, people have no idea what you got at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Anyway, in terms of technology and spaces and everything, it's just great. But
That's really
so
cool.
yes, so the bell lessons kind of taught me how to sing rock, and I was also kind of learning classical at the same time. So it gave me more familiarity with my instrument and kind of how to use it in different scenarios, and I've kind of applied that to my craft.
Really cool. You know,
Hmm.
more like legit voice teachers these days, I think, are adopting that more popular style of singing
Hmm.
as one of the
Hmm.
tools in a
Hmm.
vocalist toolbox, and
Exactly.
not just something that, oh, they sing that way and we sing this way. It tends to not
Right.
be, and that's been a relatively recent change from what
Hmm.
I have observed. I'm,
Hmm.
being more open to that. Fun, fun,
Hmm.
fun, fun.
Yeah. And and I did a lot of great choral music at BYU. I was in the BYU Singers. That was sort of the elite choir at BYU, and
Did you
and
sing
it
with
was
Ron Staley?
um, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I know
I love
Ron.
Ron Staley.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Oh, I adore Ron Staley.
yeah,
Yeah, he was great. And people often comment on my YouTube channel about like I get comments a lot about I can finally understand the words to some of these songs I've known all my life because you
sure,
have such great diction. I'm like, that's Ron Staley.
for sure, for sure.
That's where my diction came
Yeah,
from. Absolutely.
Ron's choirs have been
Hmm.
have put out some of my favorite recordings over the
Oh,
last 20 years.
great.
Because you have to remember, I'm a choir rat, so
Yeah,
that's where I
exactly.
come from. So I mean,
Yeah.
the both of our worlds are relatively small, so we'll
Hmm.
probably
Hmm.
know some similar people,
Yeah. Do you know
as
Mac
we go along.
Wilberg too?
Of
Mac
course,
Wilberg? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I've
he was concert choir director when I was there, and then
I'll be darned.
upgraded to BYU Singers. Yeah.
Yeah,
So those who don't know, Mac Wilberg is now the conductor of the Mormon
Mormon
Tabernacle
Tabernacle.
Choir.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got some of the best orchestral choral settings of anybody
Hmm.
working today. I
Hmm.
mean,
I
he's
believe that.
he's got the horses in the barn to do it,
Yeah.
but he's also a really talented arranger for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Great.
We did. Yeah, we sang some of his stuff. We did that. I don't know if you remember. There was a PBS like Thanksgiving special. It was BYU, and I was in that. I was in BYU Singers at the time. So
Nice.
so yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, so that's my choir background, and then I went and I graduated. I actually studied sound recording undergrad as my kind of my emphasis. I wasn't a performance major. I was a sound recording major but I had to have an instrument, and mine was voice. And so I graduated music, and then I went to law school because I'm like, I guess I need a real job, and none of the studios were offering me paying jobs. They all wanted me to be an intern for free. I'm just like, I
Yeah.
need to work for a living. So yeah, so I went to law school at BYU, and then I became a public defender in Salt Lake City. I was there for 13 years,
Hmm.
and then about 10 years ago, quit the day job and became a musician full time when my YouTube
Wow.
channel just kind of
Yeah.
took off a little bit.
So is that where the pizza joint is out in Utah?
Yeah, it's in Salt Lake. Yep. Hmm.
Okay. The famous pizza
Exactly.
joint.
Right. The pie. It's called the pie. Yeah. It's really
I
good. It's good
I
pizza.
I remember seeing those videos of yours back in the day,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it reminded me of friends that I had in Omaha, where I grew up,
Oh, cool.
and we would go to small venues on the weekends, and they would play their original music, or I had some other friends that
Hmm.
did acoustic covers, and they were
Hmm.
always the most fun time because there were
Yeah.
songs
Yeah.
you could sing along to, and
Hmm.
it's just the soundtrack of our lives, and it's great to hang out
Yeah.
with people and enjoy those. So great stuff.
Exactly.
How long? So
So,
go ahead,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was going to ask you a question. So,
Sure,
like, I want to ask you about. I know that your channel, you do reactions to. It's been a lot of prog rock, and then you've kind of branched out from there, right?
sure,
Into
sure.
so you've done some like heavier. Well, how would you call Dream Theater? How would you classify them? They're not really prog. They're kind of metal prog or prog metal, or
I would call
what are
them
they?
progressive metal.
Progressive metal. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you branched out there and did some fusion jazz and such,
Hmm.
right? So, but what was your kind of bread and butter as a kid? Like, what did you listen to? Like, what did you grow up on?
It's funny because I was not a musical kid from a musical
Okay.
family.
Wow. Okay.
I'm a jock. I'm a sports
Oh
kid from a
wow.
sports family.
Right on.
And my dad played minor league baseball. He's the shortest of five brothers, and he's 6'2".
Oh
I was,
wow.
I was tall for my age. I was coordinated for my age. I played basketball. I played baseball. I was gonna go to college on a baseball scholarship until I hurt
Okay.
my shoulder pitching.
Oh no.
And so my parents didn't have a turntable in the house
Okay.
at all.
Wow. Okay.
No instruments, and You know,
Mm-hmm.
if we were going to listen to something or watch something, it was going to be the game. You know, the Cardinals
Mm-hmm.
game was
Mm-hmm.
on, so we got to watch. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You know, so I fell in love with sports and with games. And as we moved to new places, we moved to Omaha in the start of my 8th grade year, and I was convinced somehow by the choir teacher to join choir. And the way that
Mm.
he actually got me was, he said, you don't need a study hall or anything. Come join the choir. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I've never sung in my life. I have no idea what
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing. He's like, it's okay. I'll teach you. We
Wow.
need guys. We need guys because right now in the
Wow.
8th grade choir, there's 35 girls and like 7 or 8 guys. I'm like, what time does
Wow.
choir start?
I know, right?
Right? And I found it to be the most vulnerable, difficult thing I'd ever tried. I had
Wow.
always been good at school. I could throw a ball, I could catch a ball,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
trying to pick out a melody or doing it yourself and being like
Mm-hmm.
doing a solo in front of everybody or doing like a duet, it was
Mm-hmm.
everybody can see me. There's no protection.
Yeah.
And it enthralled me, it scared me, it made me really curious about chasing that feeling. And so I throughout high school, I got more into music on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And as I had, a knee surgery, a shoulder surgery, by the time I got to be a senior in high school, I was an all-state
Yeah.
choir and really
That's
loving
great.
it and really loving it.
That's great.
And I went to 3 different universities before I figured out what I was going to study. And it was finally the choir kids go, you can do our theory homework better than we can. You better either shut up or join the class. And so I did. And I got into writing and
Mm.
building my own things, and then it was kind of off to the races from there. So
That's amazing.
it's really been late in my life, and it's one of
Yeah.
the main reasons, but why I didn't know a whole lot of the classic repertoire.
Okay. Because it wasn't a musical family. You're doing
Right. So
sports. And,
like, all that
yeah.
my family would listen to would be like the Oak Ridge Boys or Kenny
Right.
Rogers. I've got Kenny
Right.
Rogers album
Oh
right
yeah.
back there. There you go.
There he
Kenny.
is.
My first concert my mom took me to was a Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers concert when they sang Islands in the
Nice.
Stream. So
Sure.
I knew some like some Christian music because my family is
Mm-hmm.
Christian, and just like some basic country music, but other than that,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know about it. And then when I got going in studying music, I had to go back and learn all of the classical repertoire. So I, like, for years, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't spend time
Yeah.
listening to the back catalog of the great rock and roll classics. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Because it
fast,
wasn't on the syllabus.
right. So fast forward all the way through to COVID when I lost my gig. I'm like, what am I going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
I've been in the private
Mm-hmm.
sector teaching for all this time, and no colleges are hiring during COVID. So I started the
Mm-hmm.
YouTube channel. And it was
Mm-hmm.
actually my little brother that said, you should do reaction style videos.
Yeah.
And so I started with Iron Maiden of all things. And
Oh, that's so funny.
it really ramped up. And so I've just been kind of chasing this for a few years now. And it's been quite
Yeah.
liberating. So that's kind of me in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
That's cool. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, I kind of did the similar thing where I just went off on my own, but
Yeah.
mine was deep diving into music, and quitting the day job. So I can relate to that for sure.
I
And
still
that's so
love
cool.
I still love that
Yeah.
I'm, getting to stretch my musical muscles on a daily basis. It's just in a completely
Yeah.
different way than I've done it in the
Hmm.
past. Yeah.
So you didn't even know the Beatles or the Stones
Well,
or
thanks to my wife, who is a really nice classic rock fan, I've come
cool.
to know some of the classic. I mean, I've got Abbey Road up there. I mean,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
that's
yeah.
my favorite
Hmm.
Beatles album.
Right on. Yeah.
And so I've come to know the Beatles. I've come to know some of the major hits over the years, but like
Hmm.
when I started doing the channel, I was like, Genesis, okay, Land of Confusion. Genesis fans are like, yeah, yeah, not that one. Supper's Ready,
Right.
Supper's Ready.
Yeah.
Firth
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
Fifth. Lamb Lies
Right.
Down. That's the ones that we
Exactly.
want. So it was just starting to
Hmm.
fill in all the holes. When my first interview that I did as the Daily Doug, I called Rick
Yeah.
Wakeman Rick Wakefield because
Oh no.
because I know sports, and Rick was a great knuckleballer, so it's part of it.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's amazing.
So
Um, yeah,
let me ask you something. Well, when I
sure.
hear you sing, I went through and I've to prepare for this, I've re-listened to a lot of your music, and it's
Nice.
really wonderful.
Oh,
Mike,
thank you.
my analytical ear though picks up on something that you do that really impresses me. Like when you sing
Okay.
Space Odyssey, you
Mm-hmm.
take on,
Oddity.
yeah, you said oddity, yes. You
Oddity,
you
yes.
you take on the vocal inflection and almost the uh just the color of
The
David's
timbre,
voice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And even
Mm-hmm.
his the way that he speaks, the way that he sings.
Mm-hmm.
When you sing No Rain, you sound like the singer from Blind Melon. I can't remember his
Mm-hmm.
name on top of my head. When you sing
Shannon
Scarborough,
Hoon.
yeah, when you sing
Mm-hmm.
Scarborough
Mm-hmm.
Fair, it reminds me of Art Garfunkel, and so on and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. More than a feeling, I get Brad Delp vibes. Talk about the resonance, the vowels, the tone color that needs to
Yeah.
adapt as a
Mm-hmm.
cover musician more than anything else, and how you
Yeah.
bring that to the forefront.
Yeah, well, I think part of it comes from just I've spent like that's how I taught myself to sing was just
Hmm.
like my question was how did he make that sound?
Hmm.
Like how did he make that sound? That was the question I kept asking myself. How did he make that sound? Where is that in my voice? And I will tell you that there are certain sounds I never found in my voice that I looked for. I'm just
Hmm.
like, oh, I wanted to make that sound. I wish I could make that sound. But so a couple specific sounds, but like starting with the Beatles, for example, you had like I had this contrast because you had this beautiful, sweet, dulcet tone of McCartney, and then
Right.
you had this kind of nasal focused tone of Lennon. And I was like, I wanted to do both of those things. I didn't want to
Right.
have to choose. And so I would figure I'd try to find that in my voice. And the Beatles are kind of like on my mind right now because I'm a singer of a local Beatles cover band just kind of for fun. It's just kind of a side project called Rubber Souls. And we have a gig tomorrow night. So I've been like we practiced last night and I've been listening to Beatles all day and just like and I play piano. I do all the Paul McCartney piano songs, and I play
Awesome.
acoustic guitar and electric guitar. But we have another keyboardist. We're not like we don't dress up like the Beatles. We just
Ah,
recreate the music. Because
cool.
there's five of us. Because it takes five. Anyway, but
Are you
yeah, I was just like,
just as
mhm,
an aside? Are you going to play like
yeah.
one album, or you do like a Beatles retrospective?
No, we do. No, it's just kind of a variety. Like we do
Cool.
Sergeant Pepper stuff. We do. We throw in She Loves You, but we're doing You Never Give Me Your Money. We're doing. We do Penny Lane. We just kind of do it all. It's just
So
kind of a variety,
I
and it's
told you my favorite. What's your favorite Beatles album?
favorite
Oh.
Beatles album.
Or if you were going to
Ooh.
perform an entire album from the Beatles, which one would you pick first?
Well, I mean, Abbey Road is probably the most impressive one to take on, but
Yeah.
I love Magical Mystery Tour. I love Sergeant Pepper's. I love the middle period, Rubber Soul, and I love
Yeah.
Revolver. We do a lot of Revolver. We do a lot of Rubber Souls.
I've got
So
the
yeah.
box set of Revolver over there. You can't really see it.
Uh,
There
yeah,
it
yeah,
is,
yeah. No, I
kind
see
of
it back there.
behind.
I do see it
Yeah.
back there. Yep, 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 yep. And so, but back to your original question, it was just became of like me listening to different singers and saying, I want to sound like that, and like, can I find that in my voice? And it's always kind of straddling a fine line because I want to like emulate without imitating. I
Hmm.
want to create the vibe of the original, but also like people, it goes through the filter of my voice. I can't change that, so it always sounds like me regardless. But
Right.
but yeah, I did a gig last week, a private gig, and a guy came up to me afterwards. He's like, "You're a chameleon." He's like, "You sounded like every song you sang. You sounded like the original singer." I'm like, "Thank you." I'm like, "That's kind of what I'm trying to do, just because I don't know. Like, I want to represent the song
Yeah.
to somebody as if they've never heard the original. I'm like, this is as close as I can get to showing you what the original sounded like.
Yeah.
If I were to play it alone, and maybe it's part of it's my insecurity because I think the closer I get to the original, the more that the fan of the original will like it because it
Yeah.
reminds them of what they already like, and so
Yeah.
they don't. It's less of me is involved, perhaps. And so that was always kind of like I was always a background singer in restaurants. So people, it's like the jukebox is on, but it's live. And now, they come up and make instead of throwing money in the jukebox, they throw money in the tip jar.
There you go.
And that was kind of my vibe. Yeah.
Hmm. Fun. Fun.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No, well, let's see. All I was going to go for with that was like, it's just impressive to me that you adapt to the needs of the song.
Hmm.
Um, and it's it always sounds it's just amazing to me how much like I can tell where the placement's slightly different, where that's forward a
Hmm.
little bit back, it's brighter, or it's a little bit darker, it's more through an ooh, or it's
Yeah.
got a bit of a British
Yeah.
accent if it's a British singer, that sort of thing.
Right,
It's
right.
really cool.
Thank
One of the
you.
yeah, one of the, so I'm sure you have played your fair share of weddings over
Oh yeah.
the
Oh
years.
yeah. I do
So
weddings,
this
people. I do weddings.
yeah, there you go. So
Yeah.
this is kind of off the beaten path, but I was just
Sure.
I thought that I'd ask you this. What are some of your suggestions for like best songs for a first dance at a wedding?
Ooh.
Like
Well,
or
I've definitely
some
done.
like great
Yeah, I've done.
memories that you've had, of doing that.
Yeah, I've done Wonderful Tonight a fair amount.
Ah,
That comes up more than once for sure. I've done some random ones. I've done like just because they're in my repertoire. I've done like Thank You by Led Zeppelin.
hmm.
I've done Somebody by Depeche Mode. I don't know if you know that song. It's a piano song, but I play it on guitar.
I don't think I do.
Yeah. Okay, I've done She's Got Away by Billy Joel. I
She's got a
also do that on guitar.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah,
wonderful.
so like it just kind of and I've done I think I've done what's it called? Oh, Unchained Melody, actually. So yeah, so just kind of whatever they're in the mood for. But back to you asked me about my favorite Beatles. I'm gonna say Beatles
Yeah.
song. My favorite Beatles song is Hey Jude.
Hey
I
Jude.
just yeah, just that vocal is just astounding to me. It's just so beautiful and it's so perfect, and the melody and it just like oh yeah, that is just to me is just like the quintessential rock song. It's just beautiful. I
It's
just
pretty
love everything
great,
he did with that.
isn't it? It's
Hmm.
pretty great.
Hmm.
Excellent. You have anything else that you want to know from me?
Yeah, absolutely. I just as somebody who's been exposed to some beautiful choral music as a music major,
Aha.
I'm I haven't I'm curious what some of your favorite choral pieces are that let's
Wow.
say before let's say 19th century and earlier because I don't know a
And
lot of the 20th
earlier.
century stuff.
And
Yeah, because
earlier.
I and earlier, yeah, yeah.
Let's see.
So like not sticking getting away from the 20th century. Like I don't know,
Okay.
maybe some of the what about like the Duraflea and Fare requiems? Are those 20th century or those 19th century?
Well, they are in the
They're kind of
early
like right around.
they're
Yeah,
right around the corner there, and
yeah.
both of those are wonderful. In fact, my
Hmm.
dissertation project was the writing of a requiem mass using the
Which one?
model
Oh,
my own.
just writing your own. Oh,
Yeah,
gotcha,
so
gotcha.
so
That's so
for my
cool.
doctorate, my doctorate is a DMA, a Doctor of Musical Arts, not a PhD. So
Nice.
instead of writing a
Okay.
book or some sort of
Oh,
treatise, mine was the writing of a major work. So I have a
oh, that's
40-minute
so cool.
Requiem
Oh,
Mass. It's hardly ever been performed,
I
but
love that.
it
That's great.
uses Derfle's model. Let's see. Mendelssohn's one of my favorites. There
Okay,
is a couple of oratorios that he did that are really great, but
okay,
Elijah gets more of the credit. But Saint Paulus,
okay.
is a
I haven't heard that.
wonderful. It's a wonderful oratorio, and when I joined the Westminster Choir, when I
Hmm.
studied at Westminster Choir College here in New Jersey, we would sing a bunch with the major orchestras on the East Coast, and so with Kurt
Nice.
Mazur in the New York Philharmonic, 6 weeks after I came to school,
Mm,
we did
no way.
Paulus. We I
Oh,
sang in New York with the New York Phil 14 times in 2 years.
that's so great. That's amazing.
We got to do the Verdi Requiem
Mm,
with Riccardo Muti in New York,
okay.
like 6 months after 9/11 happened,
Oh, wow.
and it
Wow.
was a life-changing experience. I
Hmm.
would don't go to Beethoven if you're a choir music fan.
Yeah, he's not the best with like voice leading and such,
He
just
he
like
tends
in the parts. Yeah.
Yeah, he tends
Yeah.
to treat voices like he treats his instruments, which is poorly. Even though he's a great
Yeah.
writer. I mean, Beethoven's
Yeah.
the choral symphony is what everybody goes to. It's hard as hell
Yeah.
to sing.
Yeah. I've sung that as a tenor before. I've been in a
Yeah,
choir that
it's
did that.
not
Yeah.
easy.
No.
The Bach Passion settings,
Oh yeah. I love St. Matthew's and actually
St.
St.
John.
John's too. I love them both.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're both great. Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
sung the St. John, but I've sung the St. Matthew before. It's been a long time.
Hmm. Have
They're
you done any
just
of the motets?
yeah,
Yeah, there's some good stuff there too.
Fun, fun, fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
So
Ye
I
Jesu meine
joined.
Freude. I did that one. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So you joined the choir as a tenor. I joined the
Yeah,
choir as a bass. You know.
right, right, exactly. Yeah.
It's so that's kind of how I do the things that I do when I'm following along with the music that I'm listening to on the
Mm-hmm.
channel. Is I'm
Mm-hmm.
popping into the bass lines, and that's helping me to give
Oh yeah.
a
The root, like
a
the
grounding
just the
for if I can figure out where
yeah,
the
what the
bass is
chords
going.
are.
And you asked me as we were getting ready for this if I have perfect pitch. A lot of people ask me that. I actually don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
gotten close over the years, but I've known people that have actual, like, they know that frequency and they don't need anybody. Like, they could be in,
Mm-hmm.
like one of my professors, we could be at a, a loud restaurant. We go sing a C and he'd pop it out and we'd get out our pitch pipe and check him. And, he'd do
I
it.
know. And that
It's amazing.
how does that like? But like, does that drive them crazy to hear a whole song that's performed slightly detuned? Like
Well,
when they used to slow down the tape a little bit, or whatever, speed up
yeah,
the tape, it
yeah,
wouldn't be at 440 anymore. Like, would that drive somebody with perfect pitch crazy? That's why I
yes.
always wondered that.
Yes,
Okay.
so this particular person who was one of my choral teachers, I remember us actually listening to a recording of a Bach motet in his office. And
Okay.
we were following along, and he's like, I have no idea where they are. We're like, ha ha, the teacher doesn't know where they are. He's like, no, I'm looking at E flats and they're not singing them,
Oh wow.
you know?
So
And
it just becomes like, oh, weird.
you're
So
like
it's like
trapped inside
he
your,
doesn't
yeah,
like he can't correct to the nearest relative pitch. That's
right.
crazy.
So with
Whoa.
me, I tend to tune up before I do these. If I'm doing like really guitar heavy stuff, I'm going to pick an E and get tuned up to an E because most often there's an E somewhere in there, you know?
Oh wow.
And so I'll get
And you can
tuned.
hold that in your head? Like you
Yeah.
can hold that in your head like while something else is going on?
Yeah.
That's great. That's crazy.
It just comes with practice because,
Yeah.
teaching at Westminster, we were mostly uh, teaching vocalists how to be, the best
Yeah.
musicians that they can be. And the knock on vocalists is that they, have to have things sung to them or played for them, and then they mimic it
Mm-hmm.
back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like a violinist who comes in and just you give them a
And
chart
just
and
like
they play
yeah.
it down.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
our goal as teachers was to try to get our students as they matriculate through to be as quick as they possibly could with sight singing, and we'd give them all sorts of difficult things to do, pitch memory,
Mm-hmm.
um, dictation practice, all of that sort of things, where we play like Bach
Mm-hmm.
chorales and they're like, write that down, all four
Oh
parts,
boy.
you know
Oh boy.
and I
Yeah.
had to be better than they are. The students were so
Right.
good, you
Right,
know
right, right.
and
That
I
makes
had
sense.
to so I had to really buck up and get better at it. And as you teach it, it does get easier. And so
Kind of burned in your brain.
just being and teaching
Mm-hmm.
undergraduate chord structure and theory and all that sort of stuff with a real heavy influence towards ear training over
Mm-hmm.
decades. Just,
Mm-hmm.
you can remember where a D is because I remember what Joy to the World sounds like, or I can
I know, and that
that sort of
yeah,
thing.
and that's the only thing I've ever been able to do. Like if I'm like I remember there was a time in high school when I was just so into Hey Jude that I was like singing it and learning it so much that I could pick out a middle C because it's the first note of Hey Jude.
Right.
And like and a high school friend, we were in the choir room. This girl's like, "Do you have perfect pitch?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "I have pretty good relative pitch." And she's like, "Well," she's like, "Sing a C." I'm just like, "Okay." And then I just found it in my head, like, or whatever it was. And then she walked over to the piano. Yeah, yeah. And then
Yep.
she walked over to the piano and hit what I had just sung, and she freaked out because it was
Yeah.
exactly on. She's like, "Oh," so
That would
like,
be
I'm
pitch
like,
memory. That and
"Yeah, pitch
actually,
memory. That's
it's
all I've
really
got. That's all
fair
I've got."
because I mean, my wife is like that. She's got a better ear than I do, and she's a French
Mm-hmm.
horn player by trade,
Mm-hmm.
and she'll remember a song. She's like, nope, wrong key. Then she'll remember it.
Oh,
She'll think of it, and then she'll sing the note. The only trick
oh,
is she hasn't
that's
learned
crazy.
what that note. Like, all you need is that piece starts with that note, and if you can remember what that,
Right.
then you can get it right. And so,
Plug into the scale. Yeah,
right,
exactly.
so that's really how I've done that. And there's a lot of times, especially when I'm listening to really aggressive fusion or things that are really complicated, it gets hard to follow, and I'll tell
Yeah,
people I have no idea where they
yeah.
are. Um,
Yeah.
but
Something you
it's
said, something I was gonna say, something you said earlier about like you start with a bass note, like
mm,
that's something I do too. Like if I'm trying to figure out a song on guitar and I don't have, reliable tab on the internet or the chords are wrong or whatever, I take shortcuts where I can, just like anybody else. But
right.
often the internet tab is just wrong in some place, so I have to correct it. But it helps to, I don't have to retype the lyrics or whatever.
Sure.
Sometimes the lyrics are wrong too. But like if I'm figuring a song, sometimes if I'm figuring out a song out by ear, I will start with the bass. I'm like the bass, if it's not the root, it's in the chord somewhere.
It's in the chord
Like that's
somewhere.
going to give me a place to start. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's always a good place for me to start too.
Yeah. It was tricky because, in classical music, the string instruments hardly ever do alternate tunings. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they do occasionally. We call it scordatura, but most
Mm.
often than anything else, the strings tune to the exact same things, and there's no frets, so they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a when there are pieces that use all of these open strings that they're already tuned to, you can play fiddle-like passages, and there are other times where you have to
Uh-huh.
have everything covered, and
Right.
so it just in half positions and all that sort of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
learning how guitarists would be like, I'd be like, oh, they're in E flat. That's going to be really hard for them. They're like, no, they're just tuned down here. Oh, gotcha.
Well, unless the bass player isn't tuned down, it's hard for the bass player maybe, and like the rest
For,
of the guitar player picks up another guitar, and the bass player's
for
like,
sure.
"Damn it, E
For
flat."
sure. Or they just grab a seven string, or an eight string or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's been really eye-opening. I continue to learn at a really
Mm-hmm.
great or accelerated progress type of thing, because learning the guitar was not something that
Mm-hmm.
was taught a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're like,
Mm-hmm.
look, that's a guitar, there is its open strings, we don't use the guitar, it can stay over there. And so I've got one
we
now
never
back
speak of the
there.
guitar.
I've got one back
Yeah,
there
right
now,
on.
this nice little acoustic, and I'm trying to
Nice.
figure out, where do I put my hands? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting there. I'm getting
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my philosophy as a guitar player has always been to try to, instead of, I don't always try to play the guitar part, I try to play the song, like the
there.
band. Like so sometimes when I'm arranging a song, like my rhythm will be different from the original rhythm because I'm doing the drums and bass groove, but I'm playing the chords that the guitar played, or whatever. So that's part of the trick of making an acoustic arrangement is like you can't just think about the guitar. You have to kind of take the whole song
Sure.
into your brain. Yeah. But I wanted to tell people, like, for
Yeah.
the sake of people that are listening to this on my channel and that maybe aren't familiar with you, the
Mm.
thing that I like, the way I found Doug, and the thing that I was drawn to was, I mean, not just, you're a great guy and your personality and your charm makes it worth sticking around,
Cool.
but I loved the fact that your knowledge of music just being applied to the music I loved, and also just hearing, especially like stuff like Rush and Genesis, hearing your reactions to like music that was a little bit more, romantic in terms of like its structure, and like some of the Tony Banks stuff where it's just like a lot of big chords, like, One for the Vine, or when, some of the Wind and Wuthering stuff, or
Yeah.
that, I just hearing you react to that in real time, and you're following the chords and you're like, oh, he did this, and like, oh, it's so cool the way they did this and went back to this, and, you're picking it apart in a way that's just like, it's always fun to hear smart people talk about their craft. You know
Right.
what I mean? And when you're a fan of that craft, like music, it's just all the more fun.
Yeah.
And when you're hearing somebody, I mean, you get all the juiciness of a reaction, like, oh, he's gonna love this. What's about to happen? He doesn't know what's coming. Like you
Hmm.
get that, when the music and the reactor doesn't, you get that anticipation. You're like, oh, what's he gonna think of this? That's the fun of it, and that's
Yeah.
always there. But just the deeper level of analysis, sometimes you're bringing out the sheet music, and we can watch it go by in real time, watching the piano parts and such. Just like, yeah,
Yeah.
I've just really enjoyed it. And I used to, I mean, and during COVID, like you were a lot of my treadmill entertainment, or my,
Awesome.
I should say, yeah, like my Stairmaster or whatever. Yeah, my
Yeah.
elliptical. I was watching you on the elliptical a lot, and it was really fun. And we exchanged messages at some point, and it was kind of cool to know that you were kind of aware of me and stuff. And
Yeah.
so it's fun to actually get to talk to you and meet you for real. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. It's fun. It's just the way that I developed over many years of
Mm-hmm.
how I need to listen to music if I'm going to learn it.
Like
There would
absorb
be
it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right, because there would be these classes in music school where they would do these drop the needle tests, these repertoire
Mm-hmm.
tests, where they would,
Okay.
but back,
Yeah.
in my day, it was fast forward to 2 minutes on the CD and not just drop the needle, but
Right, right.
they would start playing something and you'd have to be listening like, oh, that's the second movement to Brahms' Third Symphony.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to
Mm-hmm.
know the repertoire. And so I'd have to
Mm-hmm.
listen to these symphonies are long. And you'd have to be,
Yeah,
what can I
yeah.
remember about it that if I heard it again, I could recall it?
Distinguishes it. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I would be hearing key areas. I would be hearing form. I would be hearing instrumentation, just anything that I could
Mm-hmm.
differentiate. And so it's just me verbalizing the way that I'm accustomed to
Mm-hmm.
letting a new piece of music to me wash over me. I'm just calling, really, it goes back to sports. I'm just calling balls and strikes. I'm doing play by play.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right,
like
right. Yeah,
there's
yeah.
that just happened and that just happened because we need those people, even though we're watching the game, to tell us what actually just happened. And so it
Yeah.
helps, helps us understand it a little bit differently. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been every time I treat it almost like a game. um
Mm-hmm.
what can I terse out
Like
about
follow
this
the bouncing
song?
note. Yeah.
Right,
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
what can I say about it that adds value?
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
yeah, we're just past our 800th episode on YouTube,
Nice,
and
nice.
I've done additionally on our Patreon, I've done now more than 70 full albums.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great.
It's crazy. And we do
Good for you.
some fan favorite stuff where people like this month
Mm-hmm.
we're picking our favorite summer songs and then they all vote on it. And then I
Okay.
do like a whole countdown. I do my best. Casey Kasem,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
Nice, nice, nice. Well, and I think well, why don't you tell people like for the sake of my channel,
Mm.
tell us some of the people that you've interviewed on your channel.
Wow. So I've interviewed Annie Haslam from Renaissance. She was a really great interview. I also talked to Devin Townsend. No, I didn't talk to Devin Townsend. Why am I? That's who I want to talk to. Um,
He's next.
I'm going to bring up all of these so I don't forget,
What,
actually.
Steve Hackett? You said
Yeah,
Rick
I got to talk to
Wakeman.
Steve.
Steve,
Let's see. If I go to YouTube and I go to my channel, I'm going to forget. I knew
And
you'd ask me
Jordan
this.
from
Yeah,
Dream
Jordan
Theater
Rudess.
and
And I go
hmm
to my playlists and I've
and
got,
Hogarth from Marillion
yeah,
and
Steve Hogarth. Marillion's
hmm
one of my favorite
hmm
new bands, at least new to me. Shucks, now
Have
I
you seen
can't.
my Kaylee cover? I have a cover of Kaylee.
I have not seen that.
Yeah.
Wow, I talked with Neil Morse.
Nice.
Let's see. Who else? Ross Jennings from Haken. Michael McGlenn. Do you know Michael from
I
Anuna?
don't know, Michael.
He's
Okay,
a
cool.
wonderful Irish musician.
Nice. Nice.
Let's see. Uh, Rachel Flowers.
I just want
Do you know Rachel?
I don't know her. No,
Uh,
I don't. Who's she? Who's she with?
she
Or
is
she's solo.
a blind pianist who is
Oh
a
wow.
Keith Emerson
Oh
type
wow.
player extraordinaire.
Nice.
She does covers of
Nice.
ELP, and it's incredible.
Nice.
Nick
Nice.
DiVirgilio, I talked with Nick. Yeah, Steve Hackett. The guys from Big Big Train. That's one of my favorite
Okay.
bands. If you don't know
Nice.
them, I was going to ask you this too. If you had like some independent or lesser known artists besides, that you would like for like my audience to know about. Big Big Train. I've got one of their albums back here. These guys are from Britain, and
Okay.
If you like Genesis, if you like 70s
Right on.
Genesis in a new 21st century style, this is the band for
Oh,
you.
that's
I
cool.
love these
Okay.
guys. Yeah.
I well, I don't listen to a lot of current music, and that's just a function of my age more than anything.
Mm.
I have two young sons that kind of exposed me to some of their music, and my girlfriend exposed me to her music. She's my age, but she has a younger taste than I do.
Aha.
But I was gonna say I see your OK Computer back there. I'm a huge Radiohead fan too.
Yeah.
I love singing Tom York. Yeah, he's amazing. So
Some
I just want, but
Van
like I was
Morrison.
asking you about your. Oh yeah, yeah. I was asking about your
Roots.
interviews because I wanted to show people that I'm in good company with the people that you've interviewed.
Yeah, I've been very blessed to have people say
Yeah.
yes. I even got to
Right.
interview Martin O'Donnell, the Halo composer, the gaming.
Oh, okay.
I talked with
I
Marty,
was,
and
I was going to ask you if you ever thought about doing like film work since you're a composer,
you
or
know,
have you done any?
I haven't. I'd love to. I've just never been asked to do it. Um,
Okay, I
and
know.
it's
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've been so busy with the Daily Doug over the last couple of years. I've hardly written anything new. I've been trying to
Makes
write
sense. Makes sense.
a prog song, and I've got some work
Okay,
on it. But
right on.
it just, when I've got you know, all of these people that are asking me to listen to the music that they love, and
Hmm.
there's demand for that, then
Hmm.
it's hard to turn away from that demand.
Sort of your, and that's why when people ask me about original music too, like, do you do originals? I'm like, well, covers are kind of my bread and butter. So,
Yeah,
and there's not like this, people aren't beating down the door to hear my originals, so I kind of stick with what's working. But yeah,
yeah,
and I just love. I'm such a music fan that I enjoy singing covers, like probably more than singing originals because I feel like I'm less judged. I don't know, less
right,
scrutiny or something, or less like,
right. The re-
like it's just that there's already a familiarity.
and if there's one thing that I've learned in doing this channel, it's no matter how affable or nice I am, when it comes down
Hmm.
to it, it really is all about the repertoire.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
respond to, "Ooh, he's doing that
Hmm.
song. He's going to love it,"
Hmm.
or "He's going to hate it. Let me watch," or that
Right,
sort of
right.
thing. It comes down to
Hmm.
repertoire. Speaking of that, besides your mega viral Africa video,
Hmm.
the cover from Toto, which, by the way, one of the best bands of all time, right? Toto,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're
They're amazing.
unbelievable,
Yep,
right?
yep. Hmm.
What's besides that one? What's another video that you would point my viewers to check
Oh, thank you
out
for asking.
your stuff that
Thank you
you're
for
really
asking.
proud of?
Thank you. Well, it just so happens that a couple of my most recent releases are some of the best work I've done, and it's me live with a bass player and a string quartet playing
Cool.
acoustic classic rock covers. And one of the ones that, like, the last thing I released is probably one of the best things I've ever done, which is my cover of "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road" by Elton John with a string quartet and a bass player, and it sounds beautiful. And
That's a
we've also,
that's a
yeah.
hard vocal.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, you should listen to it. I think it sounds really great,
Awesome.
if I can say so myself. Yeah, and I did Baker Street, the Jerry Rafferty, and we did,
Nice.
violin instead of saxophone, and we did "Died in Your Arms" by Cutting Crew, and the bass player Bryce actually sent it to the singer of Cutting Crew, and he responded and saying he loved it, he thought it was great, so that was super cool. Um, yeah, but apart from that, so I would say the "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road" with the string quartet, my latest release, is a solid way to start. But the most viewed video on my channel is actually not Africa. Africa has like 17 million views or something, and the one that has the most views is "Leader of the Band." Oh, did I freeze?
I thought yeah, it
My
looks
video's
like you.
frozen.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Shucks.
I'll toggle. I'll toggle it off and on and see if it helps. Maybe I'll come back here in a second.
Come back
Anyway,
on.
but my cover of "Leader of the Band" by Dan Fogelberg is the most viewed video on my channel, and it has like 35 million views, and or something like that. And most of that traffic is coming from the Philippines. But that's a
Huh.
beautiful song if you're not familiar with it, and it's got great harmonies, and so yeah, here I come. I think I just
Yeah. Rebooting
am I coming back?
your
Yeah,
your
let me
camera.
close this out. Yeah, let me just close that
There
camera
you
software out.
go.
Oh, there we go.
There you
Okay,
go.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, so anyway, "Leader of the Band" and is a great one, and that's one that a lot of people like watch over and over again. Apparently, it's like on
Cool.
Aaliyah.
Well,
So
I
yeah.
checked
Anyway.
out your website, and I saw that your Beatles night tomorrow night there in Colorado, and I also
Hmm.
saw that you're
Yeah.
coming to Maryland later this year.
Hmm.
That's not too
Hmm.
far of a drive for me.
Well,
I'll have
man, if
to.
you want to come, I'll put you on the guest list for sure if
That'd
you
be
want to make
fun.
it.
That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm going to Ireland in October, and going back to Germany in January, and yeah, so I'm getting around a bit.
wow. So you've
Hmm.
performed in a lot of different countries now.
Yeah.
What this is my question. What's the same and what's different with crowds
Okay.
from around the world?
What's the same? They all want to hear Africa. And my word of advice to you, future cover artists, is if you're gonna have a signature song that goes viral, make sure it's pretty easy to sing. No, Africa is always a challenge
It's
for the
gonna
song.
take a lot
Um,
to take me
yeah, yeah,
there. Good Lord,
exactly.
that's high.
It does take a lot. Yeah.
You know what? I am I it was just this year when I realized that's two different singers. on the
Yeah,
original
right. I
recording.
didn't know either. I
I
had
was
no
like,
idea
how
either.
does that guy have a
Yeah.
great range? It's two guys.
Well, and I didn't even watch the freaking music video, and I still was confused. In the video, it's two different guys. I'm just like, yeah, yeah. And
Wow,
same thing with
listen to that
Rosanna.
head voice.
Like Rosanna's like Steve Lukather's the verses, and then Bobby Kimball's the high part. And I had no idea it was two people. But
Yeah,
it's three people if you put those songs together. Like Africa's the verses are a different guy. That's
yeah,
David Paich, the guy who wrote it. And I got to meet David Paich, and he was super nice about like telling me
cool.
that he's like, thank you for covering my song, and you sing it better than we do. And he told people that anytime he has anyone over to his house, he shows them my cover. So
Yeah.
it was super cool to meet the guy who
The
wrote
the
Africa.
voice is instant credibility because I was on a Zoom with some of my top tier patrons last weekend, and I told them that I was going to be talking with you, and some of them knew who you were, and some of them didn't. I said, "Well, here, we're going to play the song," and I put on Africa, and they're here, dum,
Hmm.
dum, 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 and then
Hmm.
they're like, "Okay." Instant credibility. They're like, okay, he's got game, let's do it. So
Nice. Yeah.
it's part of it,
Hmm.
you make use of the skills and the innate abilities that you have. You try to do them to the best
Hmm.
of your ability, be humble, but be an authority on
Yeah.
what you're interested in, and just
Yeah.
have fun with it and enjoy the camaraderie with all the people that are joining in. That's what's great about the
Yeah.
arts. It's really cool.
Exactly. And I'll say like I've been again going back to the Beatles. I've been listening to some of these Beatles songs that I listened to as a kid, and I was just like, I still tap into that sense memory of just the joy of that music and the innocence of it, and just like stuff like Ticket to Ride, or I mean, just beautiful, simple songs that are
Yeah.
they just gave me such joy as a child that like when I hear them or when I sing them, I still get that feeling. And I want to give that to the people that love this music too. And that's just like the best gift in the world is to be able to give the gift of music to other people. And like I love that. It's so great.
Really great. Well, I wish you
Hmm.
all the best. It's been fun to chat with you here. We could probably keep
You as
going
well,
for
man.
another hour,
I know. We could
and
talk all day. Yeah,
I'd
that's
love to
awesome.
keep in touch down the
Yeah,
line.
we should.
So the next time you're on the
Yeah,
East Coast, I'll try to get out to a show,
absolutely. Absolutely.
and maybe I'll try to get one of your covers, your performances on the Daily Doug, and we can
Oh,
do
that
it
would be
that way.
fun.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you could do the Yellow Brick Road,
that
I
would be
advise it.
fun. I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever.
that's
I know the song, of course, but
yeah.
I don't think I've ever featured it on the channel. That's been the weird thing is that people are like, "Well, what about this? Like you've never done
Right.
Bruce Hornsby." Well, he's one of my favorites, and this is all
Oh,
about
cool,
me
cool.
discovering new stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's a few people that I've heard
yeah.
throughout the years, and some that I had just completely neglected, and
Right on.
so we're on the road
I'll
here.
be I'll let you know, Doug, that I'll be in back in New York City at the Cutting Room in Manhattan. Like it's in April, I think, or May. So I'll
Awesome.
ping you about that for sure.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're like
Hmm.
halfway in between New York and Philadelphia.
Okay,
So
okay.
we're
I'd love to get back to Philly. I just need a venue, but yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
Philly's a
Cool,
fun
man.
town. Yeah. So
Yeah, I played there a couple times.
this has been really
Go
great.
ahead.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
reaching out to me, and best of luck as you continue
Thanks.
on. And we'll keep being fans. All right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'll keep watching Daily Doug.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, man. Yeah,
See
thank
ya.
you.
See ya.
See ya.